The Grand War Hall of the Varelian Empire had not been opened in full ceremony for over 300 years. Tall silver pillars stretched toward the glowing ceiling. Blue energy lines ran across the black marble floor like frozen lightning. At the center of the hall stood something that every alien child in the Empire had grown up hearing about: the legendary armor of Carveth. It was more than armor. It was history. It was pride. It was power. It was power. The first Conqueror Queen had worn it when she united their scattered worlds into one unstoppable empire. The armor had survived starfire cannons, planetary bombardments, and ancient cosmic storms. But during the last galactic war, it had finally broken. No one knew what weapon had damaged it. Some believed it was struck by a forbidden star core blast. Others believed it was torn apart by a lost alien god machine. All they knew was this: it had never worked again. For centuries, the armor stood in the war hall as a reminder of both glory and loss. Its surface was cracked, the chest plate was split open, the energy core inside was dark and silent. Hundreds of the best engineers in the galaxy had tried to repair it. All had failed. The damage was too deep. The energy circuits were fused into unknown patterns. Even the original design records had been lost in the war. It was considered impossible. And yet, today, the war hall was full. Nobles in dark ceremonial robes filled the upper balconies. Military generals stood in perfect lines near the central platform. Royal engineers adjusted scanning drones that floated in the air. Something had happened during the night. The armor was no longer broken. Soft golden light now flowed through its veins. The cracks were gone. The melted metal had been reshaped perfectly. Even the ancient royal crest, once shattered, now gleamed like new. No announcement had been made. No official repair team had been assigned. The restoration had appeared silently. The great doors of the war hall opened. The alien queen entered. Queen Valarith of House Carveth walked with calm authority. Her silver armor reflected the golden light from the restored relic. Her eyes, sharp and unreadable, focused only on the center of the hall. The crowd bowed deeply. She did not speak at first. She walked slowly toward the legendary armor. The entire hall was silent. When she reached it, she raised one hand and gently touched the chest plate. Warm, active, alive. The energy core hummed softly under her palm. Her expression changed. This was not surface repair. This was complete restoration. She stepped back slightly and turned to the royal chief engineer. "Explain." The engineer lowered himself to one knee. "Your Majesty, we did not repair it." A wave of confusion spread through the hall. The queen's eyes narrowed. "Then who did?" The engineer hesitated. His voice trembled. It was done by an off-world technician assigned to lower maintenance sectors. Murmurs filled the balconies. The queen's voice became colder. "Name the species." Silence. The engineer swallowed. "Human." The hall erupted. Some nobles laughed in disbelief. Others spoke in anger. A few generals looked insulted. Humans were new to the galactic stage. Their species had joined interstellar society only 40 years ago. They were known for creativity and adaptability, but also emotional behavior and physical fragility compared to warrior races. They were not considered masters of ancient alien war relics. The queen did not laugh. She looked again at the armor. Her voice lowered. "Bring this human forward." The great doors at the far end of the hall opened once more. Two royal guards stepped aside. A single human man walked in. He was not tall compared to the alien warriors. He wore a simple gray technician uniform. No medals, no armor, no weapon. His steps were calm. His face showed no fear. The laughter from the balconies slowly faded. The human stopped several meters from the queen and bowed respectfully. "My name is Elias Ward," he said quietly. His voice echoed lightly in the vast hall. The High General of the Empire stepped forward angrily. "This is an insult," the general said. "A maintenance worker touching the sacred armor? This is treason." Elias did not react. The queen raised one hand, silencing the general instantly. Her eyes remained fixed on the human. "You repaired it?" she asked. "Yes, Your Majesty." "How?" The question hung heavily in the air. Elias glanced at the armor almost thoughtfully. "It was not beyond repair," he said simply. "It was misunderstood." More murmurs. The royal engineer looked offended. "The energy lattice was shattered beyond reconstruction," he argued. Elias shook his head slightly. "The lattice was not shattered. It was misaligned. The core was trying to restart, but its harmonic regulators were fighting each other. Several scanning drones immediately activated and began analyzing the armor again. Data streams filled the air. The engineers watched in shock as new readings appeared. Energy flow patterns, stable. Core synchronization, optimal. Structural reinforcement, stronger than recorded historical data. The Royal Engineer's face turned pale. It is functioning above original combat capacity. The hall went completely silent. The Queen slowly stepped closer to Elias. "You are telling me," she said carefully, "that centuries of our greatest minds failed because they misunderstood their own creation?" Elias answered calmly, "On Earth, Your Majesty, we survive by fixing what others throw away. Broken systems teach us more than perfect ones." The High General stepped forward again. "Humans are scavengers," he growled. Elias finally looked at him. Sometimes scavengers learn things conquerors ignore. The tension in the hall became sharp. The Queen studied the human for a long moment. She then turned toward the legendary armor once more. The golden light pulsed softly, as if breathing. Her voice echoed through the chamber. "Prepare the combat arena." Gasps filled the room. The Queen continued, "If this human truly restored our greatest relic, then we will witness its power." She looked back at Elias. "And if you are lying." She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. Elias simply nodded. "I understand." As the nobles whispered and the generals exchanged dark looks, the legendary armor stood glowing at the center of the hall. For centuries it had been a symbol of lost glory. Now it was something else. And as the Queen watched the human standing calmly before her empire, she felt something she had not expected. Not anger, not doubt, but a strange, cold realization. The galaxy might have misunderstood humanity, just as they had misunderstood the armor. And that possibility was far more dangerous than any broken relic. The combat arena of the Varelian Empire had not been used for royal testing in over 2 centuries. It was a massive circular chamber beneath the palace. The walls were layered with reinforced alloy and energy barriers. Floating platforms carried nobles and commanders above the arena floor so they could watch safely from every angle. At the center stood the legendary armor, now fully restored. Golden energy flowed across its surface in slow, steady pulses. Ancient symbols along its arms glowed brighter than ever recorded in imperial archives. Queen Valerith sat in the high command seat above the arena. Her face showed no emotion. Below, the High General paced impatiently. "This is reckless," he said. "We are trusting our most sacred relic to a human's hands." The Queen did not look at him. "We are trusting the truth," she replied calmly. On the arena floor stood Elias Ward. He looked small compared to the massive armor beside him. Royal technicians surrounded the relic, making final system scans. Their faces showed disbelief mixed with fear. One technician approached the Queen through a communication channel. "Your Majesty, the armor's internal structure has been modified." A ripple of shock spread across the command level. "Modified how?" the Queen asked. "Reinforced joints, enhanced energy routing. The core is stabilizing at levels 12% higher than original design records." The High General's eyes darkened. "He changed it," he said coldly. "Without permission." The Queen's gaze shifted toward Elias. "Did you alter the original design?" Elias answered without hesitation. "Yes." The arena grew silent. The general stepped forward angrily. "You admit it openly?" Elias remained calm. The original design was powerful, but it was inefficient. The energy feedback loops were fighting each other during high output. That is why it burned out during the last war. The Royal Engineers exchanged uneasy looks. "That information is classified," one whispered. Elias continued, "I did not disrespect your history. I strengthened it." The Queen watched him carefully. "Who taught you to understand our technology?" "No one," Elias replied. "I studied the patterns. Systems speak the same language everywhere. You just have to listen." The High General let out a harsh breath. "Enough talk. We will test it." He turned and signaled the control tower. The arena floor shifted. Panels opened. From below, 3 combat drones rose into view. They were war machines used for elite training. Each drone carried plasma blades and heavy particle cannons. Their targeting systems were advanced enough to challenge full battle squads. A royal champion stepped forward, Commander Threx, the strongest warrior of the Empire. He approached the legendary armor with pride. Servants assisted him as he stepped inside the suit. The armor sealed around him. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the core ignited. Golden light exploded outward, filling the arena with brilliance. Energy rippled across the armor's surface like liquid sunlight. Commander Thrax lifted one armored hand slowly. Power level stable, reported the technicians. The High General gave the command. Begin combat simulation. The drones attacked instantly. Plasma beams shot across the arena. The armor moved, faster than expected. Commander Thrax raised one arm and an energy shield formed. But it was not the traditional dome shape. It curved sharply, angled to redirect a plasma beam sideways. The blast struck the arena wall instead. Gasps echoed above. That configuration is not in the original design, a technician whispered. The drones adjusted and fired from multiple angles. The armor responded differently. Energy shifted from the legs to the shoulders. The joints moved smoother than before. When a drone charged forward with its plasma blade, the armor stepped aside at the last second and struck with precise force. The drone shattered against the wall. Only two remained. The High General's expression grew tense. Push it harder, he ordered. The remaining drones activated advanced combat mode. They moved unpredictably. But the armor adapted. Energy flowed in new patterns across its surface. The core pulsed brighter each second. Commander Thrax's voice came through the speakers. It feels alive. The final drones attacked together. The armor leaped. The crowd gasped. The legendary armor had never been capable of aerial combat before. Golden thrusters ignited from the back. Mid-air, the armor rotated and released a concentrated pulse wave. Both drones froze in place before collapsing into molten metal. Silence filled the arena. Smoke drifted slowly across the floor. Commander Thrax landed heavily but smoothly. All drones neutralized, reported the control system. No one spoke. The Queen rose from her seat. Status. The Royal Chief Engineer's hands trembled as he read the data. No structural damage. Core output stable. Energy efficiency increased by 18% during combat. The High General stared at Elias. You planned this, he said quietly. Elias looked at the arena floor. I predicted the drones would switch to advanced mode. Their attack timing has a pattern. The general stepped closer. You studied our military systems too? Elias shook his head. I studied behavior. Patterns repeat everywhere. The Queen descended from her platform slowly. The entire arena bowed as she walked across the floor. She stopped in front of the armored commander. Exit. The armor opened. Commander Thrax stepped out, breathing heavily. He looked at the Queen. Your Majesty, it responds before I command it. It strengthens where needed. It feels aware. The Queen turned toward Elias. You did not simply repair it, she said softly. No, Elias admitted. I finished what your ancestors started. A dangerous silence followed those words. The High General's hand moved near his weapon. That is arrogance. Elias met his gaze calmly. Or respect. The Queen studied both of them. Above, the nobles whispered in confusion and fear. The armor stood glowing behind Elias, stronger than it had ever been in recorded history. After centuries of silence, it had awakened. The Queen finally spoke. This trial is complete. She turned to the High General. But this is not the end. Her eyes returned to Elias. If you can strengthen relics of the past, then perhaps you can prepare us for the future. The general's voice hardened. You would trust him further? The Queen's answer was quiet but firm. I trust results. As the arena lights dimmed and the court slowly dispersed, the legendary armor remained standing in the center. Alive. Elias looked up at it one last time. He knew this was only the beginning, because somewhere beyond the Empire's borders, there were forces watching, and they would not ignore what happened here today. The galaxy had just witnessed something impossible, and impossible things attract dangerous attention. Far beyond the borders of the Varelian Empire, something ancient awakened. In deep space, hidden between dying stars and broken asteroid fields, a dark fleet drifted in silence. Their ships were not polished like royal vessels. They were sharp, black, built for destruction. Inside the largest warship, a tall figure stood before a floating hologram. The image showed one thing: the legendary armor, fully restored. Golden energy glowing brighter than it had in centuries. The figure's voice was low and cold. "It is active again." Another officer responded. "That should not be possible. The relic was destroyed during the last war." The tall figure narrowed his eyes. "It was not destroyed. It was incomplete." The hologram zoomed in. Data lines showed new energy patterns, stronger, faster, adaptive. "This is not the original design," the officer whispered. The tall figure turned away from the display. "No," he said slowly. "Someone improved it." A pause filled the dark command chamber. "Find out who." Back inside the Varelian capital, celebration had not begun. Instead, tension had grown heavier. Queen Valerith stood alone in her private chamber, staring at a projection of the battle trial. The moment replayed again and again in silence. The armor adapting, the armor flying, the armor flying, the armor thinking ahead. She turned off the projection. A soft chime echoed in the room. "Enter," she commanded. The High General stepped inside. His face was serious. "We have received unusual signals from deep space," he said. The Queen remained calm. "From which sector?" "Outer Rim, near the graveyard of the last war." That region was forbidden. Too many ancient weapons still drifted there. Too many lost fleets had disappeared in that darkness. The Queen folded her hands behind her back. "Do they know?" The general did not need clarification. Yes, she closed her eyes briefly. They were watching. Meanwhile, Elias sat alone in the lower engineering sector. He studied the armor's energy logs on a small holographic display. His face was focused, not proud. He noticed something. A faint echo in the core readings. A signal reflection. He adjusted the display and magnified the data. There it was, a foreign scan signature. Someone had scanned the armor during activation. His expression grew serious. Before he could continue, 2 royal guards entered. "The Queen requests your presence." Minutes later, Elias stood again before Queen Valerith and the High General. "You sensed it too," the Queen said without greeting. Elias nodded. "Yes, we were not alone." The High General stepped closer. "Explain." "When the armor activated its higher output cycle, it sent a pulse wave. That pulse traveled far beyond this system. Someone was waiting for that signal." The general's jaw tightened. "You were saying this is your fault." Elias shook his head calmly. "No, the armor was always a beacon. It just had not been loud enough before." The Queen studied him carefully. Who would respond to it? Elias hesitated. "The ones who damaged it the first time." Silence filled the chamber. The last war had nearly destroyed the Empire. Official records blamed a coalition of rival species, but not all enemies had been named. The High General turned to the Queen. "We should deactivate it." Elias immediately spoke. "That would be a mistake." The general glared at him. "You dare advise us again? If you shut it down now, you confirm weakness." Elias replied, "If someone is watching, they are waiting to see if you are afraid." The Queen stepped closer to the large star map on the wall. "Show me outer rim movement." Red dots appeared near the edge of known space. They were faint, distant, but increasing. A scout officer rushed into the chamber suddenly. "Your Majesty, multiple unidentified vessels have entered border range." The general's hand moved toward his weapon again. "Fleet strength, unknown. They are using signal masking." The Queen did not panic. "Raise shields. Prepare defensive lines." She looked at Elias. "If this is connected to the armor, you will remain." The High General objected. "He is not military." The Queen's voice became sharp. "He understands what they are responding to." Moments later, the palace war room filled with officers and holographic displays. Outside the capital, defensive ships moved into formation. The red dots on the map multiplied. Then one of the unidentified vessels broke masking for a brief moment. The war room froze. The symbol on the ship was ancient, older than the Empire itself. The High General's voice dropped. "The Void Dominion." Whispers filled the room. They were not just enemies. They were myths. A species believed destroyed after the last war. Elias stared at the symbol carefully. "They are not here for territory," he said quietly. The Queen looked at him. "How do you know?" "Because they came directly toward the capital, toward the armor." A communications signal suddenly broke through. Unfiltered, direct, a deep mechanical voice filled the war room. "Varelian Empire. You have reactivated stolen property." Shock spread through every officer. The Queen stepped forward. "Identify yourself." The Queen stepped forward. Identify yourself. I am Warlord Kar, the Devoid Dominion. You possess what belongs to us. The Queen's eyes hardened. The legendary armor was forged by our ancestors. A cold laugh echoed through the channel. Your ancestors built it from our fallen technology. The room went silent. Elias slowly turned toward the Queen. That explained the unknown energy pattern. The Warlord continued. You have awakened our design and improved it. A pause. We are coming to reclaim it. The transmission ended. Silence pressed down on the war room like heavy stone. The High General spoke first. This is war. Elias looked at the growing fleet signals. No, he said quietly. This is retrieval. The Queen's voice was calm but deadly serious. They believe the armor belongs to them. She turned to Elias. Does it? He answered carefully. The base technology might, but what it has become does not. Outside the capital, the sky darkened as the first enemy ships entered visible range, massive, black, covered in weapon arrays. The legendary armor stood in its containment chamber below the palace, golden light pulsing steadily, waiting. The Queen gave the final command. Prepare the armor for deployment. The High General stared at her. You would use it now? She looked toward the window, where distant enemy ships filled the horizon. They came because it lives again. Her voice became ice. Then let them see what it has become. Elias watched the war signals update rapidly. He understood something clearly now. He had not just repaired a relic. He had awakened a challenge, and the galaxy was about to respond with fire. The sky above the Virelian capital turned black. Void Dominion warships filled the upper atmosphere like a moving wall of shadow. Their hulls absorbed light. Their weapons glowed with cold blue energy. Citizens across the city looked up in fear. This was not a border conflict. This was invasion. Inside the Royal War Chamber, alarms echoed through the halls. Defensive shields activated across the planet. Fleet commanders shouted orders. Energy cannons powered up. Queen Valerith stood at the center of it all. Calm, focused. Enemy range? She asked. Closing rapidly, an officer replied. They are ignoring outer defense stations. They are targeting the capital directly. The High General turned toward Elias. This is what your awakening has brought. Elias did not answer the insult. He stared at the tactical display instead. They are not scanning cities, he said quietly. They are scanning energy signatures. The Queen understood immediately. They want the armor. Below the palace, in a massive chamber of reinforced alloy, the legendary armor stood upright inside its activation frame. Golden light flowed through it like liquid fire. Royal engineers hesitated. Your Majesty, one said through the communicator, we do not have a trained royal pilot prepared for combat deployment. The High General answered harshly. Commander Threx will enter again. A pause followed, but Queen Valerith spoke before the order was confirmed. No. The war room turned silent. She looked at Elias. You will pilot it. Shock spread across every officer. The High General stepped forward angrily. This is madness. He is not Virelian. He is not trained in royal combat. Elias himself looked surprised. I did not request that position, he said carefully. The Queen's eyes remained steady. You understand it better than anyone alive. The general protested again. If he fails, the armor falls into enemy hands. The Queen answered without hesitation. If he succeeds, they will fear what we have become. The silence that followed was heavy. Outside, the first Void Dominion ship fired. A massive blue beam struck the planetary shield. The sky flashed bright. Citizens screamed in the streets below. Elias looked toward the Queen. If I do this, I will not hold back. She stepped closer to him. That is why you must. Moments later, Elias stood before the legendary armor. The activation chamber hummed around him. Technicians moved aside nervously. He placed one hand on the chest plate. The golden light responded instantly. The armor opened slowly, not like a machine, like something welcoming. Elias stepped inside. The metal sealed around him. For a moment there was darkness. Then light flooded his vision. The internal display activated. Energy readings scrolled past his eyes. He could feel it. Not weight, not pressure. Connection. Above, another void beam struck the shield. Cracks of light spread across the sky. Planetary defense at 80%, reported the fleet commander. Launch interceptors. Birelian ships rushed upward, engaging the enemy fleet. Explosions lit the clouds. Inside the armor, Elias closed his eyes briefly. He adjusted the internal resonance controls. He had modified them for faster neural response. Core synchronization complete, announced the system. Queen Valorith's voice came through the link. Elias Ward, the battlefield is yours. The battlefield is yours. The floor beneath the armor opened. A launch platform rose rapidly. In the next second, the legendary armor shot upward like a beam of gold. It broke through the palace roof and into open sky. Citizens below stared in disbelief, a golden figure rising against a wall of black warships. Inside the nearest void flagship, Warlord Karth watched. "So the human wears it," he said coldly. Elias hovered in the sky. Enemy targeting systems locked onto him instantly. 5 warships fired at once. Blue beams crossed through the air. Elias reacted. The armor shifted before he fully commanded it. Energy bent around him in sharp-angled shields. The beams deflected into empty sky. Gasps filled the Varelian war room. "It adapts faster than before," a technician whispered. Elias focused on one enemy cruiser. He could see weak points in its weapon grid. He redirected energy to the armor's right arm. Golden light concentrated into a narrow beam. He fired. The beam sliced through the cruiser's cannon array. The weapon exploded. Enemy ships changed formation. "They are adjusting to him," reported a fleet officer. Inside the void flagship, Karth narrowed his eyes. Increased suppression fire. Test his limits. Dozens of smaller attack drones launched from the dark ships. They surrounded Elias from all directions, the sky filled with plasma streaks. For a moment, even the Queen held her breath. Then something changed. The armor's core pulsed brighter. Elias felt the pressure building. He unlocked the deeper layer of modifications he had hidden inside the system. A risky feature. He whispered softly. Adaptive overdrive. Golden light expanded outward in a wave. The attack drones froze midair as their systems overloaded from resonance interference. One by one, they exploded like sparks in a storm. Silence spread through the sky. The void ships hesitated. Karth's expression hardened. He integrated Dominion resonance into the core, he realized. Elias heard the fleet commander speak urgently. More enemy ships entering atmosphere. Heavy-class war vessels. The largest void battleship moved forward. Its size blocked the sun. It aimed a weapon far larger than the previous beams. The High General spoke quickly. "That cannon destroyed our fleets in the last war." Elias steadied his breathing. Inside the armor, he could feel stress building in the core. If he pushed further, the system might collapse. Queen Valorous' voice reached him again. "You are not alone." Varelian fleet ships formed around him in defense pattern. For the first time, they followed his positioning exactly. The human had become the center of their formation. Kother's voice transmitted directly to Elias. "You stand inside stolen power." Elias answered calmly. "Power belongs to those who understand it." The enemy cannon charged. Blue energy gathered into a massive sphere. The sky trembled. Elias redirected everything into the armor's core. Warning signals flashed across his display. Overload risk critical. He did not stop. Golden light surrounded him completely. The enemy cannon fired. A beam of pure destruction shot toward the capital. Elias flew directly into its path. The entire world watched. Gold met blue in the center of the sky. The impact shook the planet. Energy waves rippled across clouds. For a long moment, nothing could be seen. Then, the blue beam split, divided, redirected upward into empty space. The legendary armor remained floating, cracked slightly, but standing. Silence fell over both fleets. Kaz stared in disbelief. "That is impossible." Inside the armor, Elias breathed heavily. The core stabilized slowly. He looked at the enemy flagship. "This isn't your relic anymore," he said quietly. It evolved. The void fleet began to pull back slightly, not retreating, recalculating. The war was not over, but something had changed. For the first time in centuries, the void dominion had been resisted at full power, and the one who stood against them was human. The sky remained filled with smoke and drifting energy. The Void Dominion fleet had pulled back beyond immediate firing range, but they did not retreat fully. Their massive warships hovered in dark formation above the planet, like silent judges. Below, the capital city stood damaged but alive. Inside the legendary armor, Elias felt the strain in every system. Warning symbols flashed across his vision. Core temperature rising. Structural integrity reduced. But stable. Barely. Return to ground level, Queen Valerith ordered calmly. Elias descended slowly, landing on the palace platform. As the armor opened, technicians rushed forward. Steam rose from the golden metal. The High General approached immediately. "You nearly destroyed it," he said. Elias stepped out carefully. "I nearly saved your world." The general did not respond. He looked up at the dark fleet. "They are not leaving." Inside the Void flagship, Warlord Karth stood motionless. His officers waited for orders. He redirected the annihilation cannon. One officer said quietly, "No organic pilot should survive that force." Karth's eyes remained fixed on the battlefield image. "He does not fight like a Varelian. No, he fights like us." That statement unsettled the chamber. Back in the palace war room, urgent discussions filled the air. "Our fleet cannot withstand a second full barrage," an officer reported. "The planetary shield is weakened." Queen Valerith stood before the star map. "They are waiting for something." Elias, still recovering, looked at the data streams. "They are analyzing the armor," he said. "Analyzing?" The High General asked sharply. "They want to know what changed." A sudden alert interrupted them. Unknown signal detected from the armor core. Everyone froze. "It is not Dominion frequency," a technician said nervously. "Then, what is it?" the Queen asked. Elias moved closer to the projection screen. "It is internal." The room went silent. "Internal?" repeated the general. Elias nodded slowly. "The core is transmitting by itself." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "When I rebuilt the resonance lattice, I unlocked deeper layers of its original structure. There was something dormant." "Dormant?" the general echoed. Elias looked serious. "The armor was never just a weapon." He requested full access to the core chamber. Minutes later, Elias stood once again before the legendary armor, now resting in containment. Golden light pulsed more slowly than before, but beneath it, faint blue strands flickered. Dominion blue. He placed his hand against the chest plate again. The connection returned instantly, but this time he felt something else. Not code, not energy, memory. Images flashed in his mind. Ancient battlefields, Dominion engineers standing beside Varelian ancestors, the armor being constructed jointly, not stolen, shared. Elias staggered slightly. Technicians moved forward, but he raised a hand to stop them. Inside the core, something awakened. A recorded consciousness fragment, not alive, but preserved. A voice echoed faintly in his mind. "Balance must be maintained." Elias pulled his hand away suddenly. Sweat covered his face. Queen Valerith entered the chamber. "What did you see?" He looked at her carefully. "The last war was not what your history says." The High General entered behind her. "Be careful, human." Elias ignored the warning. The Dominion did not attack first. Silence crushed the room. "That is impossible," the general said sharply. Elias shook his head. "The armor was designed as a bridge between your species and theirs. A shared defense system." The Queen's expression hardened. "Our records state they betrayed us." Elias spoke quietly. "Your records may be incomplete." Before anyone could respond, the war room transmitted an emergency alert. Dominion fleet moving again, but not in attack formation. The Queen immediately returned to the command center. The dark warships shifted positions slowly. Instead of targeting cities, they surrounded the palace. A communication request appeared. Warlord Karth's image filled the chamber again. "This has gone far enough," he said. Queen Valerith stepped forward. "You invaded our skies." Karth's gaze shifted slightly. "To stop a greater disaster." Confusion spread through the officers. Elias stepped beside the Queen. "You felt it too," he said. Karth's eyes locked onto him. "Yes. The core has awakened." The Queen demanded answers. "What disaster?" Karth's voice grew darker. "The armor is not simply advanced machinery. It contains a stabilizing matrix designed to suppress a deeper threat." The High General scoffed. "Lies." Karth ignored him. "When the last war began, factions on both sides lost control. The stabilizer failed. We believed it destroyed." Elias spoke slowly. "It was not destroyed. It was damaged." Karth nodded. "And now your human has restored it." The Queen's mind moved quickly. "What deeper threat?" Karth hesitated for the first time. "Something older than both our empires." The room fell silent. "Show them," Karth ordered. A second hologram appeared. Deep space coordinates beyond the outer rim. There, faint but growing. A massive gravitational distortion. Not a ship. Not a fleet. A moving void. "It feeds on high-energy systems," Karth said. When the armor activated at full power, it sensed the stabilizer reawakening. Elias understood immediately. The armor is not just a weapon. Karth finished the thought. It is a lock. Silence spread across both command centers. The Queen looked at Elias. "You unlocked it." He answered honestly. "I strengthened it. I did not know what it sealed." The gravitational distortion pulsed larger on the display. "If that entity reaches inhabited systems," Karth continued, "no fleet will matter." The High General looked shaken for the first time. "You expect us to trust you now?" Karth's voice remained cold. "I expect you to survive." Queen Valarith looked between the human and the warlord. For centuries, hatred defined their relationship. Now survival demanded something else. She made a decision. Temporary ceasefire. Gasps filled the room. The High General objected instantly. "Your Majesty," she raised her hand, "we will verify the data. If this threat is real, we fight it together." Karth nodded once. "The stabilizer must be fully activated. Your human is the only one who understands its new form." All eyes turned to Elias. He looked at the growing distortion in deep space. It pulsed again. Stronger. The armor in the containment chamber responded. Golden light mixing with faint blue. The Queen spoke quietly. "You repaired our past." Her gaze sharpened. "Now you must protect our future." Elias took a slow breath. He had only wanted to fix a broken relic. Instead, he had awakened something far larger than war. And whatever was coming, it was not Dominion. It was not Varelian. It was something ancient, something hungry. Deep space trembled. The gravitational distortion beyond the outer rim grew larger with every passing hour. It no longer looked like a simple anomaly. It twisted the light around it. Stars near it bent unnaturally. Entire asteroid fields were pulled inward and crushed into dust. It was moving toward inhabited systems. Inside the joint war chamber, Varelian officers stood beside Dominion commanders for the first time in centuries. No one spoke about old hatred. Survival had replaced pride. At the center of the chamber stood Queen Valarith, Warlord Kar, Thereth, and Elias Ward. A projection of the ancient distortion rotated slowly above them. Kar spoke first. "It is known in our oldest records as the Devourer." The name alone made the room colder. "It feeds on advanced energy systems," he continued. "Civilizations strong enough to create star cores attract it. The stabilizer inside the armor was designed to mask our combined empires from its detection." Queen Valarith's voice was steady. "And when the last war destroyed the stabilizer," Karth answered quietly, "it began to move." Elias looked at the armor standing nearby. Golden light mixed with faint blue lines along its surface. "The stabilizer is active again," he said, "but not at full capacity." "How long before the Devourer reaches us?" the Queen asked. "Days," a Dominion officer replied. Silence fell. Elias stepped forward. "The armor must be taken directly to the distortion." The High General reacted immediately. "That is suicide." Elias did not argue. "If the stabilizer field is projected at close range, it may push it back into dormant state." "May," the general demanded. Karth answered instead. "Our ancestors succeeded once." Queen Valarith looked at Elias. "You understand the core better than anyone." He nodded slowly. "It will require full resonance synchronization. Human neural flexibility allows faster adaptation. That is why I could modify it." Karth studied him carefully. "Your species evolves systems quickly." Elias gave a small smile. "We survive quickly." Preparations began immediately. Varelian and Dominion fleets formed a joint escort formation. For the first time in history, their ships aligned side by side. The legendary armor was moved onto a launch platform at the edge of the capital. Citizens gathered silently below, watching. Elias stood inside the armor once more. The metal sealed around him smoothly. The core pulsed stronger than ever before. Queen Valarith's voice came through the internal channel. "You are not Varelian." Kather added from another channel. "You are not Dominion." Elias replied calmly. "I am human." The launch platform activated. The armor shot upward into orbit, followed by the combined fleets. Hours later, they reached the edge of the distortion field. Space itself looked broken. Dark waves rippled outward like liquid shadow. Fleet shields flickered under invisible pressure. "The gravitational pull is increasing," reported a Dominion commander. Elias moved forward alone. "Maintain distance," he ordered. The High General clenched his fists but obeyed. The armor drifted toward the distortion. Inside, Elias felt pressure building in his mind. The stabilizer matrix began to respond. Ancient code mixed with his modifications. Warning signals flashed. Core overload risk extreme. He pushed forward. The Devourer reacted instantly. A massive tendril of dark energy shot toward him. It struck the armor directly. Pain exploded through his senses. Fleet officers shouted in panic. But Elias did not retreat. He activated the deepest layer of the core. Golden and blue energy combined into a new color, bright white. The stabilizer field expanded outward. The distortion trembled. Cower's voice filled the fleet channel. "It recognizes the signal." The Devourer lashed again, stronger this time. Cracks formed along the armor's surface. Inside, Elias struggled to breathe. His vision blurred. Queen Valerith spoke urgently. "Withdraw." He shook his head. Not yet. He remembered something. When he rebuilt the core, he did not just repair alien systems. He integrated human harmonic modeling. Human systems were unpredictable, adaptive. He rerouted power through his own neural link. Instead of forcing the stabilizer outward, he allowed it to resonate with the distortion. The Devourer paused. Energy waves slowed. The white field pulsed rhythmically. Elias focused. He treated it not like an enemy, but like a broken system. Find the imbalance. Correct it. Gradually, the distortion began to shrink. Fleet sensors showed gravitational pull decreasing. Karth stared in disbelief. "He is recalibrating it." The Devourer released one final surge of dark energy. The armor's outer layers shattered partially. Fragments drifted into space. Inside, Elias felt his strength fading. Core overload critical. If he pushed further, the armor would explode. He whispered quietly, "Just a little more." The stabilizer field expanded one final time. White light filled the entire sector. Every ship shielded their sensors. When the light faded, the distortion was gone. In its place remained only normal space. Stars shining calmly. Silence. Fleet officers stared at their instruments. "It has retreated," one whispered. The armor floated motionless, damaged, burned, but intact. Queen Valerith's voice trembled slightly. "Elias, respond." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a weak voice answered. "Still here." Relief spread through the fleets. Joint ships moved forward carefully. The armor was retrieved and brought back to the capital. Days later, the Grand War Hall reopened. The legendary armor stood once more at the center. Its surface now carried scars from both wars, but it glowed steadily, stronger than ever. Queen Valerith stood before her people. Beside her stood Warlord Kareth, and between them stood Elias Ward. The hall was silent. The Queen spoke clearly. "For centuries, we believed strength came from domination." She looked at the armor. "We were wrong." Karth added, "We believed power belonged to one empire." He shook his head. "We were wrong." Queen Valerith turned to Elias. "You stepped forward when no one else did." The hall remembered that first moment, when she had asked, "Who fixed this legendary armor?" And a human had stepped forward. Now she spoke again. This human did more than repair a relic. She raised her voice. "He restored balance to the galaxy." The nobles bowed. The generals lowered their heads. Even Dominion officers showed respect. Elias simply stood quietly. He had not sought glory. He had only solved a problem. As the ceremony ended, the armor pulsed gently behind him. No longer just Varelian, no longer Dominion. It had evolved. Like humanity, the galaxy had once underestimated humans, not because they were weak, but because they were adaptable. And in a universe filled with ancient threats and rigid empires, adaptability was the greatest power of all. The legendary armor remained as a symbol, not of conquest, but of cooperation. And whenever someone asked who repaired it, the answer would never freeze the Queen again, because now the galaxy understood. A human stepped forward, and everything changed.